What's up, guys? So this is a bit of artwork that it was a 30-minute illustration. I was going to be doing a time lapse, and I normally do. If you look at my playlist, there's a few in there. But I wanted to do one where I had a chance to kind of talk about what was going through my head. Now, I was recording this using Screencast, which is software for the computer that'll record your screen, or both of them, or whatever. And I had the program open. I never hit record. So there's elements in here you're going to see on layers 3, 2, and 4 that have elements on there that were already drawn in to a certain degree, just very rough shapes. One was of a sort of a classical sort of heart-shaped face. And then the other one is an area that was either going to be a neck, or at one point it was going to be part of the landscape. It was really weird. I just had these two shapes that I wanted to work with. Something I've been doing a lot is working more in this grayscale sort of effect on toned paper. I liked it. I did it for a while before, and I was like, I want to go back to that. So in this one, okay, here's the shape of the neck, and I'm just going in, and that's eventually what this became. It is weird how sometimes I'll have an idea in my head, but it's not the clearest. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play with shapes until I get exactly what I want out of this. Now, in this case, I wasn't sure if I wanted that ragged area around the neck or what. I didn't really know how this was going to come together. And I just knew the figure was going to be facing forward. This was just a concept art of a character that I'm working on for Ardor. And I have been, when I can, I've been trying to get these older videos and go over them and show people artwork that I haven't even put out yet for the book. So the artwork of this character is based on not Aztec. It may have been a Zapotec god. That's embarrassing. I don't remember that. I usually pull from a lot of different mythologies. I mean, who doesn't, right? There's so many out there. So here I'm just taking the marquee tool, the lasso tool, and I'm just basically kind of coming in with a similar shape to the previous work I did, right? Sort of a hooded, robed looking kind of thing. And I knew that this character was going to have longer hair. And although essentially female in visage to some degree, this character is either asexual or both, or two genders. So male and female, sort of unified. I love drawing shadowy horns on characters. I think they look really cool. I have a couple of art reproductions up here on the wall that Gerald Brom did, that they consistently affect a lot of the darker art I do, and I really enjoy it. And I drew this, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool, but I think I want to flip the whole shape after I color it in, depending on what it looks like. And so now you'll notice that the neck is kind of in a weird area, and I was like, I'm not really sure if that's where it's going to stay or not. So much of this is just experimentation. It's just seeing what works. I have an assortment of different brushes. The brushes you're seeing right there in Brushbox these are the Studio Ghibli ones. And it's a lot of foliage and plants and trees and stuff for just building that stuff up. But man, do they make some beautiful texture brushes just to kind of lower the transparency down to my favorite, which is right around 33 to 37%, and then just start layering it in and letting it fill in where it wants. I don't always click on the button as I'm moving down. Sometimes I'm just moving the mouse up and down, and I'm not actually bringing it to bear. So that way I get that more ethereal feel. And for some reason, when I turned it this way, this is when it clicked for me. I was like, okay, I've got it now. I know exactly where to go. And I had already drawn, like I said, the head aspect, or at least the face in there, and the eyes as well. That's the part that didn't get recorded, which pissed me off. When I got in here, I was just doodling with the shape of an eye, I was doodling with the shape above the eye, which you'll see here in just a second. And then the eye itself, when it came together, I was like, no, I know who this is going to be. I know which character, which god this is going to be. And I'm probably giving away some of the storyline by saying that, but not really. I don't think I am. I mean, if you get a chance to, I have Ardor available on my Gumroad store. There's a link below in the description. And I used to have Etsy. That's a whole nother story. You can read my journal or watch my journal video to find out what all that bullshit was about. But, yeah, so basically what I end up doing is a lot of concept art of the different characters and places as sort of promotion for the world in the comic books. I am actively working to try and finish the first graphic novel, Volume 1 of World of Ardor, before this year is over with, which is really, fingers crossed, my big hope. So this is the shape I came up with. And honestly, this shape was also because I had it over to the side, and then I decided I'm going to overlay the eyes, and it worked. But that whole head shape was for another character, and I'm hoping that may be the next one that I end up, kind of walking through and everything, because there's just a few things about it that I don't like, but maybe I'll rework it. I'm not really sure yet. So this is one where I often go back and forth a lot on like, normally I would work in Illustrator, and then I bring those things over into Photoshop, and I'll kind of edit and build from there, pull away, all that other stuff, subtract or add as I need. And I still found that somewhat limiting. So there's an approach to how I'm doing this stuff where I'm not really using a lot of color. I'll flood something, and then I'll go over it with texture, and then I start pulling down opacities and messing with the eraser tool a lot more. So I really wanted to push the face form forward, pull the neck back, sort of like those in goth culture. You'll see, a lot of people that'll have those neck blackout tattoos, and that's a bold statement. I really love it. Personally, I think it's badass, but nothing I'm going to pull off. That's why I grow a beard. Realize I should put music on this, but sometimes I can't stand. Sometimes it's just like, I've had videos before where I'm like, God damn it, and I got to re-upload it because there was a copyright strike or something. Most of the time, in fact, almost every single time, thankfully, it's worked out in my favor where somebody claims copyright on it, and that's fine. They're going to make their money off of it or whatever. Oh, I just noticed Luna's passed out over here. Hi, Luna. Actually, this is my second time filming this because I realized I had something fucked up about how I was recording it, and she was walking back and forth across the microphone. So now she's just asleep right now. So, so here I'm drawing in some other details, some of the hair and stuff like I figured is going to be falling around her face. There's a lot of times when I'm working on stuff like this and I'm like, this looks like shit right now. This isn't coming together. This isn't working. But I just trust the process and kind of go through it. And even when I got done with it, I was like, I'm going to be really interested to go back and look at either the time lapse or just let a few days go by and take a look at it and go, am I really happy with this or not? So after I drew the hair shapes in here, they kind of blend together because I'm, holding down the shift key and adding to the selection as I go along. And I know I'm going to draw a couple of different layers on here to really pull it all together. A lot of this, here's a weird story. I may have shared this before, and if I have, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell it again. When I used to work at the Nelson Atkins Museum, you did a couple of different things, but one of the things you would often have to do, and every night if you work night shift, which is what I did. Day shift I think was a little bit different, but when you work at night, there's maybe 4 guards total doing different things, and usually, yes, almost always 2 guards. One will be doing rounds or other things around the museum, and then one will be locked up in the room where, it's the main gateway. And I think I can talk about all this stuff now. And there's a bunch of televisions with more cameras than you can possibly imagine for that museum. It's really kind of bizarre. And at night, there was always this really cool effect that would happen as the sun would be going down on the Kansas City skyline. It would filter across the lawn in a particular way where you would watch color relays, color signal on these cameras start to it almost looked like this is going to sound so cheesy when I say this, but it almost seemed like a reset of reality because it seemed like it unnaturally desaturated over into the night vision. And there were things that I found that, like messing with the cameras because they can move and focus and do all these other things at night. If the block buildings in that area, they light up, the walls light up. So if the camera is facing a certain way, it's in this brilliant color. But as soon as you would swing over another area, it almost looked like there was a wall of gray. Almost like in cartoons when like a cartoon would run across or something like that, or be like, oh my God, we ran out of ink or something, or I'm in the black and white zone. It felt like that. But there was one particular camera that I loved watching, and the array was set up so that I could choose sort of what I wanted to focus on in the event I needed detail or whatever, to see something, to watch a patron doing something or whatever is going on. But there was one, and I'm forgetting the name right now, but it is a big metal tree out there on one of the side hills. And a lot of times people love it. It's an icon of Kansas City. And one of the things that would happen a lot is that people would want to go and touch it, climb it, do whatever, right? Yeah. Those are my neighbors. I don't know if you can hear the horn or not, but they've been going up and down like that. I have massively annoying neighbors. So the tree, basically, every single time the sun was going down, it would end up kind of shifting over in its color. And it had this weird, bizarre, it looked like, and for those of you that do miniature photography or like anything like that, it had this look like it wasn't real. Like it was a tree that I knew, it was a hill I knew, but because of the way that there was a little tiny bit of color saturation seeped over with this weird gray, it looked very, very real. And I've seen people that do effects like that. If you watch Love, Death, and Robots, there is the episode called Mini Zombie. I think, yeah, Mini Zombie Attack or something like that. It's filmed almost like you're looking through a macro lens, from a distance, like you're looking at a really tiny civilization get invaded by zombies. That effect, if you look, there's a particular video by the musician creator Igor, I believe it. My mind's going right now. And he does effects like that in some of them. And it's really cool. Well, I love that sort of look, that grayscale effect that isn't so stark. Mind you, when I was younger, I was influenced heavily by an illustrator named Tim Bradstreet. He illustrated all these wonderful books. If I had one right nearby me, I'd show you. But he did Vampire the Masquerade. And when his work came out, I was like, that's what I'm doing. And if actually I could show you sometime, I'll probably make a video on my really early work right out of college. A lot of that was super Tim Bradstreet, like high contrast, real stark whites, no real grayscales, maybe some medium grays for like a third element in there. That was not much at all. But I wanted to bring that over into this. And, a lot of times, like even with this one here, the shapes are coming together beautifully. I had started with the eyes on this first and the neck and the face shape. And I was like, I know I can make something out of this. And it really started to come together really good. This is sort of a tropey look, right? Like I'm drawing in lighter hair, longer tendrils of it coming down and that sort of thing. But it's very much a look I enjoy. So I was like, I'm going to do this on this character and see how this goes out. But nonetheless, so, and then there's other things I'll watch too. Like, I think, what is it? The Blood and Chrome edition for Fury Road, the last Mad Max film. I actually kind of prefer that over the color version. I really do. I watched it and I was like, holy shit, it's beautiful. It's really beautifully done. I'm a sucker though for like grayscale sort of things, broadcasts on old television, movies, stuff like that. When done really well, because costume designers often had to go, well, this red is going to look this particular type of gray on film. And so it worked, So here I'm grouping together some of the area that I want to expand with the white on the hair. And now my dog is barking outside. My crazy little chihuahua. Let's see here, what else? Yeah, the different brushes I'm using are mainly from this set that I found on Gumroad, which I think I've already mentioned. This is the Studio Ghibli one, and they have been wonderful. I love when they kind of shift over and change as I'm using them. I don't own an iPad. I honestly have never worked in Procreate, but I am envious of a lot of the tools in there. The one thing I do know that would probably drive me nuts is when I have seen people work on them, there's a lot of automated aspects, completing a circle, the symmetry aspect. That could be cool, and especially if you're making patterns or something, or you want something to be very accurate and mirror reflected. Sure, that works. I don't enjoy it that much. That's why I stick with Photoshop. And although I do love working on toned paper, I have some old sketchbooks that I really fell in love with working with toned paper. There is something exciting and probably freeing about working in digital art because I know if I fuck it up, I can Control Z it, Control Z it. So it's not a big deal. Also, one of the things, the advantage to this is I can literally take a virtual step back. So, as I mentioned earlier, I think I did anyway, the black bars on the side are because this is on a Cintiq and the aspect ratio is different. So the monitor is a good size. I think it's about about 18 inches or so. It's an older model I got off of a buddy of mine. And I love it. It's a little workhorse, knock on wood. I say that and that it's going to fuck up on me now. So I knew I wanted to go in here and kind of do a little bit of a vignette thing. That's one of my favorite things to do. I didn't really want to lock anything down. Now, if you look down in the center, from right about the middle of the lower part of the chest downward, there's an area where the lighting started working with what I wanted to do. I wanted it to I was going to do this concept piece where it looked like a riverbed or something. I was going to put more figures down there, almost like a montage, like a movie sort of thing. I thought, no, I'm pushing it too much. I just want to make this a character concept piece. That's all I want it to be. I just want to build upon what's there and, make something really nice come out of this. Here, it was driving me nuts how the face was, and I was like, I'm going to have to go back in and lighten some stuff up in here. Light sources are always a strange thing for me because not unlike that tree. So that's the weird part. That's what was so unusual about it. And even in here, I had made some decisions like, am I going to drop white in the eyes or am I leaving it gray on purpose so she seems more ghost-like? These are all stylistic decisions I was making based on, do I want a higher contrast, more recognizable format of look for her or them, really, since this is I can't say it's a she or he, it's both. Or what did I want to do with it? And then there was a whole thing, too, with calling back to that tree footage I was talking about earlier through the security cam. There is a weird sort of zone in there where like the gray is unnaturally lit. And what I mean by that is as the sun was going down, of course the shadows falling across the lawn would cast shadows, but it would do something weird for about 30 to 35 minutes. Not just the tree, other parts of that lawn. The artwork on it got this weird, fully lit gray aspect because it wasn't dark enough to quite kick in the night view, but you had the clearest view of everything. Like everything just looked extremely well lit. It was like light existed all around it. There was no... that's why it would look like a miniature to me. It would look like something that you would turn on a light in a room or light it a certain way, and it just looked... It looked very realistic, but it looked like something you could almost reach in and pick up. And it was very odd. And I've been obsessed with trying to recreate that in a lot of the artwork I do. So this was, even this too, like adding little bits of shadow up underneath there just to kind of push it a little bit more. Sometimes I'm shocked when I print this because I print on a lot of coated stock. It comes out looking... In most cases, it comes out looking good, but which I'm glad for. But there have been times whenever I've done something, I'm like, oh, that did not work, so then I'm ending, and I usually end up having to go back in and fix other elements of it and go, all right, that didn't work. So if you look at certain art reproductions that I'll put out there, you might notice that when you hold up two of them in an edition, there's a slight difference in there. I never really tell people that too much. It's not that one is lesser than the other. There's just something that's slightly off that bugged me, but I didn't want to reprint the whole thing because, quite frankly, I have lived by the idea that printer ink is evidently manufactured from unicorn blood because it is rare and expensive, and it drives me crazy. It is ridiculous that a lot of times, trying to be self-sufficient and having printers here at the house and for the studio, you just... it can be crazy, and trying to keep them working and going, and the ink, oh my God, it's mind numbing trying to produce something and then you catch something halfway through a run or something. It would drive me batty. I'd be like, well, that just sucked. So I think here I was, I was going to add trees in. So there's this one user, I think he's still on Gumroad if you want to pick up some of these trees. Dark Mercy. Damn, his vector trees are nice. And I've used them on quite a few of my projects. I make my own brushes too, but I rarely clean them up as much as they should be to make really nice uh, bits of detail on there. And I think which one? Yeah, I chose the skinnier one on this one. I kind of just fudge it up a little bit, right? I'm like placing them in there, and sometimes I'll go at like 30 or 50% opacity on this one. Here, I just wanted to knock it in and see, well, where's this shape going to take me? I didn't realize until I was rewatching this that I had accidentally stamped it twice down there. So there's like this weird off-register look that I'm not a fan of. I think I go back and clean that up. But when I was looking at this, I was like, no, this is terrible. I don't like that at all. See, I did it again. And I didn't catch myself when I was drawing. I was just in the moment. Now, also, I'm noticing here that the face is still looking a little bit off. It's not popping forward from the neck as much as I'd like. And I was noticing that as I was laying in the trees, just trying to get some ideas. I go 100% on the trees as far as opacity and just using 100% black to kind of figure out, like, well, what do I want this to look like? So just kind of playing with some different elements. And I can always, because they're on their own layer, I can always pull them back a little bit. I can erase, I can detract from it. My other cat's going to walk across the shot right now. Are you coming over here? What are you doing? So this is Luna Love Food back here, and this is Radar. He is named, a lot of people ask me, why'd you name him Radar? Well, he's named after the character from MASH. So you guys always want to walk around up here. I also have another control pad over here that I use for stuff called the Tour Box. I recommend it if you use any sort of design stuff or working in 3D. It is freaking wonderful. But it's also hypersensitive, and there was one time that this is one of the reasons I get really weird about going live. I was recording, and I didn't realize what had happened, and my cat kept running back and forth. This one, Luna. And she was stepping on the controls. Well, at that point, it had started recording, stopped recording, started. Oh, I was so pissed. Because, you get into a flow when you're doing these. You want to talk, and you want to get through them, and yeah. So these are high-resolution scans of board textures. And I'll sometimes use them to knock out different things. So they're in my group. They're the Evident Concept Art brushes. Some of those are mine. Some of those not mine that I sell. I put some of my brushes in there that are all categorically similar. They're just great textures. But I'll like here I was like, and now that I'm looking at it compared to what the finish was, like I'm erasing out some of some of the branches, kind of pushing it back, giving it a bit of a foggy feel. But I know that the face is bugging me. I still want to do something there because now it really looks like there's a creek bed down toward the bottom part of the gown-like area. And I know that here, like when I get up close, like it looks good to me, but I'm always worried when I look from a distance. I'm like, there isn't enough contrast. It's really not completely working for me. Something was just off. So this tool is really cool. This particular brush, it's like a dried ink brush. Just love it. When you get going with it, see here, I think I was going to set this. Yeah, I didn't go 100% on this, but it's just got this real scratchy sort of feel to it. And it flips every single time you're using it. It'll just kind of like cut around on there. And I just wanted something extra to pull down just a bit, texture wise on there, because I could still see that there was like this river stream bed looking kind of foggy thing down below. I just didn't like it. Maybe I should have left it there. I mean, I can always pull that back out because I'm working digitally, but it just wasn't working for me. So this quickly became a real favorite bit of work. And I think there may be some more tweaks in there that I'm going to do, but and I think I have changed one or two little details since this video was recorded when I was drawing this a while back. But otherwise, I was really happy in general with how it's come out and everything. It's just nice to get a piece of work done like in 30 minutes and go, yep, nope, that's done. That's fine. And, yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. If I remember right, I think I go in, I fix the face a little bit more. Because, yeah, I think on the final, the face is fixed a bit more. I think I did catch that on this one. I'm almost certain I did. It's kind of weird. I think I drew on this for about another 5 minutes trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. Yep. So right here was where, for some reason, something was goofy with Photoshop, and it kept kind of kicking back my selection. And I was like, no, I need to come in here. And so I just, at first I was like, oh God, I'm going to start drawing it over with dark. So I came back in with a white, and I was like, I'm just going to slowly pull more down there. I wanted the chin to come out more forward, and for that bottom lip to be not as pronounced on there, and for it to look more like a mask. And I really got to liking it, because I still wanted it to have the same light capture that down by the collarbone and near the sternum was starting to have. And this is what's so wild for me is, and I don't even know why I was doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing anything there. I'm outside of my selection area. And I don't think I realized when I was doing it. I think I was doing it right around the edge of the bottom, but there were some times where I was just losing my mind not doing that. And I liked it well enough. I think it really came forward. It took me a moment to get used to the idea of how it looked. And I still went back and kind of tweaked a few things. So I was like, man, it looks... Because there is a difference when you see something in a large format versus shrinking it down. You shrink it down, the details almost become overpowering and harder to disseminate. Like it just almost looks hyper detailed, and it shouldn't. But I was happy enough with that I was like, okay, well, now I've got to add something more to the bottom. I don't know what that's going to be yet. So here I was like, well, I'm going to draw in a hand, and there's the wrist bone, and then leading up into a forearm. It was way too skinny. Didn't like that, but I was like, you know what? That's okay. Try and fix it here. Oh, it looks okay, but it still looked a little goofy. I'd do the same thing on the other side. So I didn't want to just take that selection and flip it. So this is being drawn on a brand new layer, I believe. I think, no, I'm still on layer 9 on that one. Okay. Normally with something like this, I would take this and put it on its own layer and then draw from oh my God, the thumb was super skinny right there. Yeah, I didn't like what I did there. And then I overcompensated when I redrew it. I'm like, nope, got the claw hands going. Yeah, that wasn't working. Very Zoidbergian. That worked though. That was okay. But then the forearm started looking funny to me. I'm like, no, work with your anatomy, straighten that out. I've been watching the hell out of One Piece on Pluto TV recently. So catching up with finishing up season 1. Boy, there's so much to that. And I have come to the conclusion, which is probably what everyone else has, that to draw weird humans right, you gotta know how to draw real humans well. It's like satire, right? The more you know, the more intelligent you are in a particular subject matter, the more knowledgeable you are, the funnier it can become. You know, humor comes from pain, comes from experience. And the same sort of thing can be said in this zone. So with this, I want to just for it to be implicative that there was a shape like a hand down there. It wasn't going to be any detail. It wasn't going to go any further. No hard outlines or anything. Just highlights down there. So when the light was hitting, you're seeing that curvature on the wrist on the other side, and then it coming down more like this. And then at the top, I wanted to come in with some darker colors, but I knew I was going to fade that into the cloak that she has on. So she is part of one of the two major races that exist on Ardor, and the shadow. There is a term for it called the Salambish, but I may be changing that. The more shadowy types, they aren't really corporal creatures. They live within shadows, and they can reform and resize to a certain degree. And I wanted her to look really gossamer, really ghost-like. It's going to be great listening to me gulp down lemonade. Man, this is... Yeah. And even here, I kept thinking, oh, she needs an amulet or maybe something glowy. And I was like, no glowy on this one. Nothing. So, otherwise, I think it came together really well. So, thanks for watching, guys. You guys, I'll have more of these coming up probably once a week. I've got a lot of them to post. Thanks for watching. You can catch me on all kinds of social media. There's links below for all that. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next video.